The Meridian warship Eternal Dawn hung in high orbit above Earth, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in patterns the humans found both beautiful and alien. Inside, First Speaker Lyra Nelvith watched the tactical display with growing frustration as her subordinates presented their assessment of humanity's military capabilities. Primitives, declared defense analyst Soren, his luminescent patterns flickering with disdain. Their most advanced vessels still rely on kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion. Their ground forces train in physical combat, as if they expect to meet their enemies face to face. They haven't even developed basic psychic shielding. Lyra's inner light dimmed thoughtfully. The humans were indeed far behind Meridian technology in almost every measurable way. Their ships would be easy prey for Meridian energy weapons. Their armies would fall before warriors wielding psychic abilities. By any rational analysis, humanity should be eager to accept Meridian protection and guidance. Yet something bothered her about the humans' military doctrine. Why do they maintain such diverse combat methods? Their armies train differently region by region. Their weapons aren't standardized. Even their command structures vary significantly between what they call nations. Inefficient, Soren replied immediately. They waste resources maintaining multiple parallel military developments instead of focusing on the most effective approaches. Perhaps, said Lyra, or perhaps we're missing something. She expanded the tactical display, showing hundreds of human conflicts throughout their history. Look at these patterns. When they lose battles, they adapt. When their weapons fail, they create new ones. They treat warfare as a constant evolution. First Speaker, interrupted her communications officer, we're receiving a response to our protection offer from their United Earth Council. The humans' answer appeared on the main screen, causing Lyra's patterns to pulse with surprise. They had declined. More than that, they had countered with their own offer. An equal military alliance, with exchanges of knowledge and technology. Preposterous, Soren sputtered. They dare to consider themselves our equals. We should show them their error. One demonstration of our power would teach them exactly how our weapons work. Lyra finished. And then they would adapt. She studied Earth's battle-scarred surface, thinking of how humans had turned their own bloody history into a library of military knowledge. Every conflict taught them something new. Every defeat seeded future victories. Send word to the High Council, she ordered. Recommend accepting their offer of alliance. Seeing Soren's patterns flare with protest, she continued. The humans lack our technology, yes, but they possess something potentially more valuable. They understand war as an art of endless innovation. They don't just fight. They learn, adapt, and evolve. You believe they could teach us something about warfare? Soren asked incredulously. Lyra's patterns formed the geometric shapes of absolute certainty. I believe that any species that treats combat as a puzzle to be solved, rather than a doctrine to be followed, is one we want as friends rather than enemies. Because sooner or later, they would figure out how to defeat us. She opened a channel to Earth. This is First Speaker Lyra Nelvith. We accept your offer of alliance. Your approach to warfare is different from ours. Perhaps together we can learn new ways to secure peace among the stars. The response came quickly. First Speaker, we look forward to sharing knowledge with the Meridian Alliance. Humanity has learned through bitter experience that the best warriors are not those who never fall, but those who learn to rise again stronger. As Lyra prepared for the first joint military exercise between their species, she couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these humans would reveal. They might lack advanced technology, but their greatest weapon was their ability to turn every experience, even defeat, into a lesson for future victory. The Eternal Dawn sensors detected multiple human vessels approaching for the exercise. Each one was different, carrying varied weapons and employing distinct tactics. Lyra realized that humanity hadn't standardized their military not because they couldn't, but because they understood something profound. In the chaos of war, diversity itself was a strength. Begin recording all observations, she ordered. I suspect we have much to learn from these humans. They may lack our technology, but they are masters of the fundamental nature of warfare itself, the art of adaptation. 6 months into the Human Meridian Alliance, the warning came from a frontier outpost. The automated station went dark without transmitting any distress signal, its advanced defensive systems never activating. 3 more followed in the next week, each falling silent with the same eerie efficiency. Aboard the Joint Command Vessel Horizon Bridge, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with First Speaker Lyra. The human officer's weathered face reflected the harsh blue light of the holographic stars, each missing outpost a dark void in the network. No energy signatures. Lyra's patterns pulsed with confusion. No radiation. No debris consistent with weapons fire. Our most sophisticated detection systems reveal nothing. Which means we're dealing with something your sophisticated systems aren't designed to detect, Chen replied, her fingers drumming thoughtfully on the command console. Tell me about your military doctrine when facing unknown threats. Lyra's crystalline form shimmered. We deploy our most advanced units in standard defensive formations, using overlapping fields of psychic and energy shields while our sensors analyze the threat. Standardized response, Chen nodded. Efficient against known enemies. But what happens when the enemy stays unknown? Before Lyra could answer, a priority alert flashed across the display. A Meridian battle group had engaged an unidentified force near the Perseus Arm. The feed showed sleek Meridian warships forming their perfect defensive spheres, energy weapons charged, psychic barriers at full power. Then the video feed cut out. Battle group lost with all hands, the communications officer reported tonelessly. No distress call transmitted. No debris detected. Chen leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Show me the last frame before we lost contact. The image appeared, crystalline ships gleaming against the void. There. She pointed to a barely perceptible distortion. That shadow isn't moving like natural space. Lyra adjusted her sensory patterns. I detect nothing unusual in that sector. Exactly. Chen smiled grimly. Your sensors are too advanced. They're filtering out what they consider background noise. Lieutenant Park, switch all arrays to primitive electromagnetic scanning, the kind we used before we developed quantum sensing. The display flickered, and suddenly the shadow took form. Hundreds of small objects, barely larger than escape pods, moving in patterns that defied normal space physics. By the first light, Lyra's patterns flared. What are they? Something that evolved to be invisible to advanced sensors, Chen replied. Like deep-sea creatures that hide from sonar by matching water pressure. Your technology is so sophisticated it's blind to them. But sometimes the old ways see what the new ways miss. She opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Admiral Chen requesting immediate deployment of the Ghost Fleet. Lyra's patterns showed confusion. Ghost Fleet. I'm not familiar with this human battle group. Because it's not supposed to exist. Chen smiled. Every major military power on Earth maintains a secret fleet of ships using deliberately outdated technology. Kinetic weapons, radio communications, chemical engines. We call them our backup plan in case our advanced systems ever fail. The kind of ships your analysts dismissed as primitive 6 months ago. Understanding dawned in Lyra's crystalline form. You maintained old technology, not because you couldn't advance, but because we learned the hard way that new isn't always better. Chen finished. Humanity fought itself for millennia. We learned that today's perfect solution becomes tomorrow's critical weakness. So we never completely abandon old methods when we develop new ones. The Ghost Fleet arrived 12 hours later. Vessels from a dozen Earth nations, each one looking like it belonged in a museum compared to modern ships. They carried no energy weapons, no quantum sensors, no psychic shields. Instead, they bristled with railguns, conventional warheads, and radar arrays that would have been outdated a century ago. Battle stations, Chen ordered. All ships switched to primitive radar and infrared tracking. Radio communications only. No quantum entanglement, no psychic relays. She turned to Lyra. Your ships should fall back. They're too advanced to be effective here. We cannot simply withdraw, Lyra protested. This threat endangers us all. Then order your crews to power down their advanced systems. Sometimes the best way to see in the dark is to turn off the lights. Chen's eyes never left the tactical display. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our memory. We remember what it was like to fight blind, to communicate with simple signals, to kill with basic physics instead of exotic energy. The shadow ships appeared at the edge of sensor range, still invisible to Meridian technology, but clear as day to the ancient radar systems of the Ghost Fleet. They moved with obvious confidence, expecting their prey to be as blind as all the others. All ships, fire at will, Chen commanded. Show them why humanity never forgets its old ways. The void erupted with a kind of warfare that hadn't been seen in civilized space for generations. Railguns spat hypervelocity rounds. Nuclear-tipped missiles left trails of superheated plasma. Electronic warfare suites from the previous century filled space with waves of signal noise. The shadow ships, for the first time, found themselves facing an enemy that could see them. An enemy using weapons they had no defense against, because such weapons were too primitive to need defending against. When it was over, the Ghost Fleet had destroyed or driven off the unknown attackers without losing a single ship. The debris they left behind would provide valuable insight into their nature and technology. Remarkable. Lyra's patterns showed genuine awe. You defeated them with obsolete weapons. No such thing as obsolete, Chen corrected. Just different tools for different jobs. The Meridians master new technology. Humans master everything, old and new, because we never know which lesson from our past might save our future. The Meridian colony world of Haven blazed with emergency lights as civilian ships streamed into orbit, fleeing the approaching shadow ships. Now identified as the Void Swarm, the enemy had adapted to the Ghost Fleet's primitive weapons, developing countermeasures against both ancient and modern technology. But humanity had another card to play. Captain Maya Patel stood in Haven's primary defense center, surrounded by panicking Meridian officials. Their crystalline forms flickered with chaotic patterns of fear as tactical displays showed the swarm's inexorable advance. You can't be serious. Security Chief Ven's patterns flashed with disbelief. You want us to broadcast our presence, to deliberately attract their attention. Fear is a weapon, Maya replied calmly, checking the settings on her neural transmitter. But only if you control it. She turned to her small team of human psychological warfare specialists. Begin Operation Nightmare. Across Haven's surface, ancient human electromagnetic transmitters powered up alongside Meridian quantum arrays. The combined broadcast filled both regular space and quantum realms with a carefully crafted signal, a mix of electronic noise, psychic static, and something far more primitive, the sound of human war cries. The effect on the Void Swarm was immediate. Their perfectly coordinated movements faltered as the cacophony of human battle songs, recorded from 1,000 cultures across Earth's bloody history, crashed against their neural networks. They're hive-minded, Maya explained, watching the swarm's formation break apart. Connected through quantum fields we barely understand. But under all that advanced technology, they still have basic survival instincts. And humanity has spent millennia learning how to trigger fear responses in alien minds. The broadcast shifted, now carrying the subsonic rumble of ancient drums, the kind that had once sent primitive human armies into berserker rages. Mixed in were frequencies that triggered fight-or-flight responses in most known species, along with psychic emanations that spoke directly to the primordial fear of being hunted. This is what humans excel at, Maya continued as the swarm's formation deteriorated further. Not just physical warfare, but psychological combat. We understand fear because we've lived with it since we huddled in caves, listening to predators in the dark. We know how to use it because we've never forgotten what it feels like to be both predator and prey. Through the quantum feeds, they could sense the swarm's growing confusion. The enemy had expected to find terrified victims. Instead, they found something that touched ancient fears they didn't even know they had. Now, Maya ordered, "Show them what really lives in the dark." From hidden positions around Haven, specially modified Ghost Fleet ships launched their attack. Their hulls were painted with vantablack, absorbing 99.965% of visible light. Their engines ran silent, using gravity assists and minimal thrust. They appeared as holes in space, darker than the void itself. The swarm, their coordinated consciousness already disrupted by the psychological assault, found themselves being hunted by ships that seemed to defy physics. Human vessels appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking from impossible angles with weapons that switched randomly between primitive and advanced technology. Your people value coordination, precision, advanced technology, Maya told the watching Meridian officials. The swarm relies on perfect communication and predictable patterns. But humans, we thrive in chaos. We turn disorder itself into a weapon. The battle for Haven became a nightmare for the Void Swarm. Every time they adapted to one human tactic, the defenders switched to another. When they developed defenses against primitive weapons, they faced quantum attacks. When they hardened themselves against advanced technology, they met the brutal simplicity of kinetic impacts. And always, there was the psychological assault. The broadcast had evolved, now carrying the digitized fear of the swarm itself, recorded from their earlier confusion, and played back at them in a devastating feedback loop. Their own terror became a weapon against them. "Impossible," Ven whispered as the swarm began to retreat. They were winning. Their technology was superior. "Technology isn't everything," Maya replied, watching the enemy flee from the shadows humans had learned to master. "Humanity's greatest weapon has always been our understanding of fear, both how to face it and how to inspire it. We know that victory doesn't always go to the strongest or most advanced. Sometimes it goes to those who best understand the primal forces that drive all living things." As Haven's skies cleared, Maya's team began teaching the Meridians how to set up their own psychological warfare defenses. "The swarm will return," she warned. "They'll try to adapt to these tactics, but that's the final lesson humanity has to teach. There's no single perfect solution in warfare. The only constant is change itself." The Meridian officials, their patterns now showing respect rather than dismissal, listened intently as Maya explained how to combine advanced technology with primitive psychological warfare. They were beginning to understand that humanity's mastery of war came not from superior weapons or technology, but from their unique ability to understand and exploit the fundamental nature of conflict itself. The research facility on Mars hummed with activity as human and Meridian scientists worked side by side. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display showing the integration of Meridian crystalline technology with human combat doctrines, her dark eyes reflecting the shimmer of quantum calculations. "The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to perfect either system," she explained to the gathered military leaders. "Humans have always excelled at combining different approaches. We don't just adapt, we synthesize." Behind her, the prototype of their new hybrid warrior system floated in a containment field. It looked like standard Meridian battle armor, but its crystalline structure was interwoven with streams of primitive metals and neural interfaces based on ancient human meditation techniques. The Meridians developed incredible technology, but became locked into rigid patterns of using it. Elena continued, "Humans maintained flexibility, but lacked the raw power of advanced quantum systems. Together, we're creating something entirely new." First Speaker Lyra, now a permanent liaison to Earth's military command, moved closer to examine the prototype. "You've integrated our psychic amplifiers with human biorhythm patterns. How is that possible?" "Because we discovered that human intuition, what we once dismissed as gut feelings, operates on quantum principles similar to Meridian psychic abilities," Elena replied. "We just never had the technology to detect it before. Your people developed technology to strengthen natural abilities. Humans developed ways to use natural abilities without technology. Combined, they become something greater than either approach alone. The demonstration area cleared as they prepared to test the new system. A human volunteer, Marine Sergeant Sarah Wong, stepped forward. The hybrid armor flowed around her like liquid crystal, its surface shifting between perfect clarity and absolute darkness. The armor adapts not just to external threats, but to the wearer's state of mind. Alina explained. It uses meridian quantum tech to amplify human instincts, while human neural patterns help the crystal matrix break free of its rigid programming. In the testing chamber, holographic void swarm drones materialized. Sarah moved with impossible grace, the armor flowing like water as she dodged attacks. When she struck back, the crystal structure channeled both physical force and psychic energy in ways neither species had achieved alone. Remarkable. Lyra's patterns showed amazement. The crystal is moving in ways our scientists declared impossible. How? Because humans don't accept impossible, Alina smiled. We see limitations as challenges. When we combine your quantum crystals with trace elements from Earth's most ancient meteorites, we discovered the crystals could form new patterns, but only when guided by human consciousness. More test scenarios played out, each more challenging than the last. Sarah faced waves of enemies using both advanced technology and primitive weapons. The hybrid armor adapted instantly, sometimes becoming harder than diamond, other times flowing like smoke to avoid attacks entirely. This is just the beginning, Alina continued. We're applying the same principles to starship design, planetary defense systems, even civilian technology. Humanity's gift isn't just adaptation, it's synthesis. We take different ideas, different approaches, even different limitations, and combine them into something new. The observers watched as Sarah demonstrated the armor's ability to shift between different combat modes instantly. Traditional meridian crystal tech tries to achieve perfection in a single form, Alina explained. Human military doctrine emphasizes flexibility over perfection. Together, we've created adaptive perfection. Systems that can change their fundamental nature based on circumstance. Lyra's patterns showed deep thought. Your people are teaching us to question our most basic assumptions about how technology should work. And your people are teaching us how to reach beyond what we thought possible, Alina replied. Humans have always been toolmakers, but we kept our tools simple enough to understand and modify. Your technology showed us that complexity doesn't have to mean rigidity. As the demonstration concluded, Alina brought up new schematics. We're calling this the Genesis Project, not because it's the beginning of everything, but because it's the beginning of something new. A true fusion of human adaptability and meridian advancement. The schematics showed hybrid ships, weapons, and defense systems, each combining multiple approaches in ways that would have been impossible for either species alone. The Void Swarm thinks they can adapt to any single approach, Alina said, but they've never faced an enemy that can change the fundamental rules of engagement at will. Sarah removed the armor, which flowed back into its containment field. The real power isn't in the technology, she added, still breathing hard from the exercise. It's in the mindset. Humans never stopped learning from our past, and the Meridians never stopped pushing toward the future. Together, we're learning to do both at once. Perhaps this is why your species survived despite lacking our advantages, Lyra mused. You never tried to perfect a single approach. You kept every tool, every lesson, and learned to combine them in new ways. That's the true art of evolution, Alina agreed. Not just becoming better, but becoming different. And now, together, we're evolving faster than ever before. 5 years after the first hybrid warriors entered service, Admiral Chen stood aboard the observation deck of Earth's new Galactic military academy. Below, representatives from 30 different species trained together, learning to combine their unique capabilities in ways that would have seemed impossible before. They said we were primitive, she mused to first speaker Lyra, watching a group of cadets practicing with hybrid armor systems. Now they come from across the galaxy to learn our ways. The void swarm had been pushed back to the edges of known space, not through overwhelming force, but through constant evolution of tactics and technology. Every battle brought new combinations, new syntheses of different species' approaches to warfare. We misunderstood what makes a species advanced, Lyra admitted, her crystalline form refracting the light of Earth's sunset. We thought advancement meant moving forward in a straight line, perfecting each step before taking the next. Humanity showed us that true advancement means expanding in all directions at once. On the training grounds, a Meridian instructor was teaching quantum crystal manipulation, while a human surgeon demonstrated ancient martial arts forms. The cadets were learning to blend both approaches, creating fighting styles that were neither purely physical nor purely psychic. The Void Swarm is adapting too, Chen noted, bringing up tactical displays showing recent engagements. But they can only copy what they see. They can't innovate the way we do. Because they're still trying to achieve perfection. Lyra understood now. They adapt to specific threats, specific tactics. But they don't understand what humanity taught us, that perfection itself is a trap. A new alert flashed across the displays. The Void Swarm had launched another attack, this time against a frontier colony. But instead of panic, the response was measured and confident. Ships of different species moved in seamless coordination, each contributing their unique strengths to a unified strategy. Look at them, Chen smiled. Meridian crystal ships providing quantum shields while human kinetic weapons punch through the enemy's adapting defenses. Arachnid swarm fighters darting through gaps created by Centaurian gravity manipulators, every species contributing what they do best, but in ways they never imagined before. The battle was over quickly, the swarm retreating before the combined might of the galactic forces. But it wasn't just the victory that mattered, it was how it was achieved. No two engagements were ever the same. No tactics ever became standardized enough for the enemy to predict. We've created something new, Lyra observed. Not just in warfare, but in cooperation. Every species now understands that their way is not the only way, nor necessarily the best way. That's the real victory, Chen agreed. Not just defeating the swarm, but changing how the galaxy thinks about warfare itself. And in doing so, we may have found a path to lasting peace. She gestured to another part of the academy where diplomatic teams studied military history alongside battle tactics. By understanding how each species approaches conflict, we learn to prevent conflicts before they begin. We turn potential enemies into partners by showing them that different doesn't mean inferior. A graduation ceremony was beginning below, new officers receiving their commissions in the combined galactic fleet. Each wore a symbol that blended their species' traditional military insignia with elements from their academy training partners. Humanity's greatest contribution wasn't teaching the galaxy how to fight, Lyra realized. It was teaching us how to learn from each other. That's what makes us unrivaled, Chen said softly. Not because we're the strongest or most advanced, but because we never stop learning, never stop combining different ideas into new forms. We turned warfare from a search for perfection into an art of endless possibility. The sun set over the academy, its light catching the crystalline structures that now grew alongside Earth's traditional buildings. In orbit, ships of all species patrolled together, their different technologies and tactics forming an ever-changing defensive network that no enemy could predict. The galaxy feared us when they first found us, Chen mused. Not because of our weapons or technology, but because they sensed something in us they didn't understand. Now they know what it was. Our refusal to accept any single way of doing things as the best way. And so the primitives became the teachers. Lyra's patterns showed amusement, teaching the galaxy that true mastery comes not from perfecting one path, but from learning to walk many paths at once. As night fell over the academy, the stars seemed to shine brighter than before. Each one represented not just a distant sun, but a participant in this new age of galactic cooperation. Humanity had shown the way, not by dominating or overwhelming, but by demonstrating that the greatest strength lies in the ability to learn, adapt, and combine different approaches into something greater than the sum of its parts. The legacy of humanity's mastery of warfare had become, ironically, a foundation for lasting peace, not through force or dominance, but through the shared understanding that there is always more to learn, always new combinations to discover, always another way to evolve.